Today's going to be a little bit of a treat for me, as a friend traveled to like an import store and brought me back a treasure. A real treasure. Something that you dream about, that fills you with expectation. And I'm going to feast upon it tonight, not long after I finish with this video clip. And the reason why I'm doing this clip now is that the idea of this treasure, of traveling great distances for great reward, is part of the RuneQuest experience that I want to create in this upcoming campaign. So while I myself will be sitting here in the Republic of Korea eating what I'm sure to anybody listening to it will think is quite a mundane meal, for me it is the end of a long journey, and not unlike a little bit of homecoming. So while I'm feasting on Kraft macaroni and cheese, I thought maybe I could share with you some more thoughts about RuneQuest. The campaign development process is coming along quite nicely. As I mentioned in an earlier clip, because this is essentially a playtest, I'm having to develop, or I've chosen to develop, it feels kind of the same to me, but I've chosen to develop the campaign setting without the input of players, because I have very specific things about the system that I'd like to test, and there are certain aspects of the system that I don't want to test, and so the material that I'm creating now will allow whichever players get involved to step in and create the characters that they want to play, truly interesting characters, within clearly established guidelines, so that it won't be a long back and forth interview process via Skype or email where things take shape. Face to face, that sort of thing can still take several hours, but an email would drag on and on and on. So to spare us all that, I'm laying down a framework. And what we have, although RuneQuest is billed kind of as a sword and sandal kind of setting, it doesn't need to be run that way, and it does provide support for a higher level of technology, and it is that higher level of technology that I would like to incorporate. I don't really care that much for the type of fantasy with people running around in loincloths and sandals. I think it's entirely appropriate for heroes to plate themselves from head to foot in mail or armor of a more sturdy nature, and so these options will be available to the players. So this is more of a, well, at one technological level, I guess you'd say it's a, knights in shining armor level of technology, as I intimated earlier on in the series. But for the setting, I want player characters to be drawn from a wide variety of cultures, and mixing them together is always an issue, and I don't really want to force that kind of thing, or do, you all meet in a tavern. Well, except I am kind of having people meet in a tavern, metaphorically speaking. The way the campaign will begin is that every year there are certain religious festivals, and every 10 years there's a major religious festival which involves a pilgrimage of young heroes and chosen people. So the initial setting will be in a city in the midst of a festival, where, not unlike the modern-day Olympics, games of athleticism and performances of skill, so the craftspeople come out, and the best artisans and blacksmiths and cooks and seamstresses and hunters and who knows what else come forward to dedicate their skills to the gods. These gods which are very, very real and an active part of each person's life, in a realm where folk magic, minor magic is entirely believed, and stories and eyewitness accounts speak of divine characters, priests being able to summon or call upon the power of their deity and enact miracles to save their worshippers, and stories and eyewitness accounts of men and women who have learned to harness mystical forces that most people do not understand and almost seem to tread on the toes of the gods themselves. Into this kind of world, the idea of not paying homage to the deities which sometimes walk among the people would be ludicrous. Religion is a very powerful and palpable force which shapes everything, interacting with politics and economics in interesting ways. And so, this will be one of those decade festivals where the best of the very best are chosen or given the opportunity to go on a long pilgrimage to the holy city where only the priests live normally. Now, of course, as a pilgrimage, it will be fraught with peril. And really, what's the point of playing in a sword and sorcery kind of campaign if there's no peril? So, gosh darn it, we're going to have buckets of peril. This is not a modern world. Traveling these great distances across wastelands and through wilderness will, of course, bring us into contact with creatures of a mundane and a mystical sort. So there will be lots of conflict in this campaign. But more than that, there will be the opportunity to have these different cultures represented by the player characters interact. There will be plots and intrigues twisting in the background. And this is where my players will get to flex their creative muscles and shine. Now, while the campaign itself will be running with a primarily simulationist point of view, we'll be providing every opportunity I can for the players to set the stage or the foundation work of their characters. Then, once we're in motion, what happens will happen. Although I am building the framework of the campaign, or establishing the starting point and the theme of the campaign, I'm doing that to ensure that the things I want to test in the game system come to fruition fairly early on. But I have no interest in plotting out the campaign as a story arc or a series of particular events from a beginning point through to an end point. And so I won't be providing pre-made characters. Players will be developing their own characters, will be working together to establish their backgrounds and how much of this intrigue that I mentioned earlier will be an element of their character, and just how deep they're going to go down whatever rabbit holes they themselves create as they not only define their characters, but define the major elements of their original culture that they want to bring to the fore in that character. So the actual story will be in the hands of the players. The starting point, that'll be in my hands. And where we go, well, that's something for us both to discover.